Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei was the betrayed dragon? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Dreg. I couldn't believe what have I seen. When I've finally moved on from my lost, he once appeared next to me. My partner, the great dragon, Red Dragon Emperor, Dreg. Yes partner, that is me but why do you look older, what is going on, Issei? Dreg seemed to be confused. I couldn't hold my emotions. Tears were flowing out of my eyes like a waterfall. After 4 long years, I could see him once again. But how? I've thought I have lost you. I don't know. The last thing I remember is you getting hit by Rizavum's weapon and then only darkness arg. Said Dreg, but he couldn't end his sentence because of massive pain that erupted in his head. I was worried about my dragon. After all those years I can once again contact him and then, out of nowhere, he's having a massive headache. Something's wrong, Dreg. Sorry, I was simply reconnecting with your memories. I made a sigh of relief. But then, he burst out with anger, no, with rage exploding out of him. How they dared. How could they dare to betray you like that? How could they dare to toss you out, like some dead animal? I swear to you partner, next time I'll see them, I'll tear them apart. I and Rainer were a little afraid of this oath of bloody rage. Sorry partner, but what those whores did to you, and I thought they would be good wives for you, but what is she doing here? Dreg has slowly pointed his anger at Rainer. Wait, before you do anything rash, let me say something. I tried to avoid unnecessary bloodshed in my mind. She was keeping me safe. Don't worry, she's a friend, we are no longer. I am not talking about the fact that she has killed you many years ago. I'm well aware of fact that she is the part of Czechus's power flowing through you. What I'm talking about is the fact that she was keeping me sealed away from you. I felt cracks appearing in my heart. My eyes became hollow. Was she another person to betray me, like all others before? Is that true, Rainer? My voice was full of pain. I couldn't believe it, was she truly backstabbing me after all these years? Issei, I'm so sorry, but I had to. She started to slowly walk to me, but with every step she did towards me I did step back. She was not liking my action, so she used her speed to appear in front of me. She forcibly hugged me and enveloped me in her wings. Issei, I know, you are feeling betrayed by me, I can understand that, but please, let me explain. She started to pet me, calming me down in the process. I'll tell you everything, but please, you have to trust me. If it was 4 years ago, I would be in a panic. But after all that happened I knew or at least believed that she had a good reason to not tell me. So will you explain it to me? I asked, a lot calmer than seconds ago. I've heard her happy sigh and she started to tell me a story. In the day of your last fight on Earth, you were shot by Rizavum's weapon 2 times. Do you remember that? Yes. Since it was my memory and we were inside my soul, I could relive every memory outside myself. Imagine you can send your soul into past and you can watch past events as a ghost, something like that. So we Rainer, Dreg and me were watching our last days on Earth. Rainer was still hugging me, knowing how much those memories were painful to me. So, in the memory, there was me and Balance Breaker, charging at Rizavum. Then, that silver-head fucker unleashed a shot from his weapon. When the first beam of energy touched me my armor was completely obliterated. The first shot has destroyed your physical form of your boosted gear. And also send my unconscious soul into you. Wait, only physical form? Does that mean that I was still connected to the sacred gear system in heaven? Yes. And if that was all that has happened to you, you could have easily rebuild your sacred gear with Azazel's and Michael's help. That was shocking. But that means that devil knew he had to shot me twice. So it would seem that heaven has had a nasty traitor. So, what about the second one? I remember that I was shot 2 times, and before the second hit of an energy beam, my aura took a shape of a dragon. The second shot has destroyed your connection to Shi's sacred gear system. She said as we were watching my or our memories. But shouldn't that mean me losing all connections to Dreg? Not exactly partner. This time Dreg has taken the role of teaching narrator. Sacred gear has combined our souls together. So even without a physical form or connection to the god system, our souls are still linked. Dreg said calmly as he laid his head on the ground. And since the incidents, all of your powers are combined together and merged into one. There is no longer my or Dreg or office power. There is only yours. Oh yeah, the incident. My first I did after my landing on Centauria. Thanks to that, I was still alive. Ironically, I committed a suicide and then rebuilt my soul. How did I manage to do that was still beyond me. Maybe one day I'll know the truth. But back to the current matter. I didn't tell you about Dreg out of 2 reasons. First was because I wanted you to learn something. The second one is that I wanted to protect you. Protect me? From what? If you would know about Dreg, you would be blinded by your dragon rage. And besides, don't you think you are so much better now? Her words, she was right. If I knew that Dreg is still within me, there is a big chance of me thinking only about revenge. But because all my powers were locked away from me, I had to learn how to survive. Because I wasn't overwhelmingly strong, I had to learn how to adapt, how to fight with only instinct. How to win with opponents leagues stronger than me. I've decided to finally hug back Rainer. I could not be mad at her. After all, thanks to her, I was not only stronger but also simply better. Rainer, thank you. For everything. And know that I'm not mad at you. How could I, after all, what we had been through, Wani-chan. A fallen angel looked at me with surprised eyes, then she laughed happily. You know how to make women happy, Ice-kun. She said while she smiled in a way that would make many men fall in love with her. We've ended our hug, both in happy moods. Then we've turned to Drake. So, you want to know what happened to me? Yes, that would be great. So let me get this straight. Drake said, trying to collect his thoughts. We are in totally different world, far away from Earth. Yep. And you are now a warrior in what was it? Path of Shadows. Yes. I was nodding, agreeing with his answers. But my dragon partner was okay with some parts of my story. You're a dragon, for Alpha's sake. How can you walk and fight like an assassin? For a dragon to fight from shadows is shameful. Ice was just being a good boy and he was learning from me how to survive. Rainer was clearly on my side, standing against Welsh Dragon without fear. Do not talk, Fallen One. You are here only because of Thrhix's influence. Why you? Okay, that is enough. But of them stopped arguing, hearing my irritated rage. A look of surprise was visible on their faces since I was mostly calm and tried to avoid unnecessary fights. But enough is enough. Sorry. Yeah. After 30 seconds, Drake has spoken once again. So, continuing, you have a familiar called Shadow. Talk about coincidence. Well, yes, she is a Centaurian cat. She's very friendly, I think. I wasn't truly sure of that. After all, Centaurian cats were very dangerous predators here in this world. And you are living in an orphanage. Yes, do you have a problem with that? Drake has looked at me with a slight amusement. But deep in my heart, I knew why he asked about that. Both of us knew. Well, you always had a soft spot for kids. I'm fine with it, as long as it won't be like an op-eyed dragon again. Drake looked like he wanted to vomit, simply because of recall of that title from Earth. Me either. And your mother Amadi, was her name? How much she is into mama bear mode to you and rest of the kids. And how much does Tiamat hates you? Drake automatically went pale when I've mentioned Tiamat. And I think it all made things worse when he tried to imagine all the hate that Tiamat had for him had transformed into motherly love. Jesus fucking Christ, partner, that must be terrifying. Even I'm scared right now. Hey. Don't talk badly about my mom. Besides, I've heard that most dragon moms are equally overprotective for their hatchlings. Welsh Dragon looked at me with understanding in his eyes. After all, it was well-known fact in nature that even dragons were very protective for their young one, just like many animals in nature. Not like most civilized races. Well, I'm happy that you have found a true mother who is actually taking care of you, not like that breeding cattle you've dared to call parents. Rainer said with a disgust in her voice when she recalled what my parents has done to me. And let's not forget about the most important thing. And that is, I knew exactly what Rainer mean. I could only have hoped that Drake will take it well. Well, I do have a fiancé. I've started with barely half-confident voice. She's a QB no kitsune. Well, partner, after all those years, I'm glad that you have found someone to love. Oh, wait for the best part. Rainer interrupted us, wanting to spoil the little secret. What now? You have a weird harem full of fetishes or something. Dragon's voice was full of sarcasm and amusement. No. I do not have a harem. I wanted to slowly explain the whole thing to Drake, but Rainer was way faster. His fiancé, his QB no kitsune fiancé, is a Yandir. At first, Drake was blinking as if he hadn't heard that right. But after few seconds he went pale and then roared in anger. The Yandir, what the fuck Issei? Mama bear, okay, I can understand that, but a Yandir fiancé, partner, you are a dragon, not some kid with a Stockholm syndrome. Hey. Do not talk like about her. Now it was my time to be angry. Partner or not, no one talks badly about my goddess. I said as hellish fire appeared around me. Now both Rainer and Drake were afraid of me. After all, even I can have my little dragon rage outburst. Sorry, it's just some of my previous partners had a bad experience with Yandirs. Besides, you know how we dragons react when someone tries to control us. Drake had a point. I could understand him. After all dragons wanted to be free, and Yandirs, well, they might have something against it. Worry not, Drake, I bet you like all of them. But right now, let's go back to the main topic. Do you know how I can add Ascalon to my powers? When I asked, Drake's eyes flashed in amusement, as if he was trying to say, it's all up to you. I've missed you too, Drake, I said with sarcasm as I've closed my eyes and returned to the real world. Shadow Pav. I felt nervous and afraid. Verf's hands were covered in fire capable of melting metals, and yet, he was not moving. His eyes were open, but they were dull, without any light, as if only a body was here. I tried to wake him up, using every method possible, even by scratching his arm with my cat paws, but all my efforts were meaningless. Issei, please, wake up. I've screamed as I saw that fire has started to eat his clothes and burn his arms. And then, as if someone heard my prayer, Verfus woke up with fire and determination in his eyes. He touched his sword and then, the fire appeared all around us literally as if hell came to us. But to my own relief, this fire never harmed me, it was only giving me a pleasant warmth. Issei? I asked in worry. His hands were touching a burning sword, but he didn't even flinch. Issei, talk to me, is everything alright? I was even more worried when he didn't answer. I wanted him to say anything, but then, suddenly, he took out his sword, fire dancing around the sword edge and rest of the fire coming to him, as if the flames were under his command. Then he swung his blade as if he was trying to attack something and unleashed a godlike attack towards the heavens. The fire was flying to the sky like a tsunami. After few seconds the attack has been obliterated by some unknown force, high in the heavens, creating a marvelous northern light. It is done, Shadow. He spoke to me, showing to me his rebuilt sword. Issei has once shown me this sword Ascalon, as he was calling him a few times before. Golden dragon-like claws, and violet and gold center with a golden crest. But this time it looked completely different. Instead of the golden crest in the center, there was a miniature of a red dragon. The claws on the sword were no longer golden, now they were bloody red. The surrounding around the crest, well, now a dragon, was no longer violet blue with a golden frame. Now it was jet black with a red frame. Yet the biggest change was not in colors. Before this event, Ascalon was radiating with a weird energy. Issei explained to me that it was holy energy. But now it was purely draconic, resembling Issei's aura. His energy level was also very high. Before, it was barely a spark, now more like a very big campfire, at least for me. I think that his enemies will be more intimidated. Some of his clothes were burned away. And because of that, I could see something new in his arms, 2 black tattoos. On his left arm, the tattoo looked like a head of a dragon. On his right, there was a tattoo showing a flying dragon. Woo-wah. The Ascalon looks fucking amazing. Yelled Ice in a happy tone. And those tattoos. Well, Ice, now you have unlocked the first seal of your power, congratulations. Yes partner, right now your power is at an ultimate class devil level. You could compare that to Cardinal Crimson promotion. When 2 voices from his mind, spoken in a real world, those tattoos were glowing in 2 colors. When Rainer spoke, his right tattoo has glowed in a violet light. When the male voice left, tattoo in green. Wait, Rainer, first seal. Does that mean that I can unleash even more power? Issei has been truly surprised. I didn't even have to read emotions from his face to know that. To answer your question, yes. It is the same case like with your boosted gear. The more powerful you are, the more power you can release, thus the more seals you can open. The eyes of a humanoid dragon were sparkling with excitement like never before. It was very amusing to watch his childlike behavior. Issei, I never knew that you can be so childish. I've teased him a little while, rubbing his left cheek with my head. What can I say, Shadow, there will be always a kid inside me. Verfus laughed in a childish manner. Oh, and by the way, Shadow meet Drake. Drake met Shadow. So you're Issei's familiar? I'm glad that he took his familiar, some fearsome beast. It is good to know that he is no longer thinking only with his pheromones. Ha! Funny. Issei answered sarcastically. Verfus and Drake were talking about many things for a few minutes. But then, Rainer gave Ice a very helpful hint. Ice, if you do not wish to fight with your sword, but you still want to fight on this power level, just imagine placing Ascalon in a sheath. Issei nodded and started to concentrate. After a moment, the Ascalon has disappeared. In the same moment, on Issei's back, another tattoo has appeared, this time in the shape of Ascalon itself. Verfus was never happier, if it was even possible. Even without touching his mind, it was very clear to me. After a minute, he calmed down and said, okay, everything is awesome, but flaring my power all the time might be a little problematic. You can already manipulate your energy, so it's all up to you, Issei. I gave him my answer while I've jumped on his head. He had listened to me and within a moment sealed his powers inside him. He was once again on a level acceptable for most normal people. So now what? Are we going back home? Asked Happy Verfus when he released his 4 dragon wings. Nine. That was quick. It was the fastest trip I've ever had. Exactly 1 day. And thanks to that, all my family was happy, to the point where nearly none of them were crying nearly. I've shown to everyone to them my new powers, but do not worry, my fire would never hurt any member of my family, they have only felt a pleasing warmth. So, I'm guessing that your trip was successful. Mom has asked me while I was playing tags with kids. I've noticed also Nolly and my fiancé standing right behind her. Yes, Mom, very successful. Which reminds me everyone, meet Rainer and Drake. I have pulled up my sleeves to show my new tattoos. Oh god, how Mom will react. I could already see my mom's half-closed eyes since she was not approving tattoos. Hello, there everyone. I am Rainer. And as far as we have seen each other once, right, Amadi? From my right arm, a violet light and Rainer's voice went out. Everyone, besides Mom, was surprised and shocked. Even me to some point, since I didn't know that Amadi has talked once to my fallen angel companion. Yes Rainer, I remember you. And do not be afraid my son, I've talked to her when I was healing you. Before I could ask, Mom has already dispelled my second thoughts while using her mother-like tone and stroking my right cheek. And who Drake might be? That would be me, Miss Amadi. This time, it was Drake time to introduce himself. I was utterly surprised that Dragon's voice was full of respect towards my mom. Many dragons were well behaved when it comes to others, but to earn their respect was another thing. Yet here, Drake, one of the most powerful beings in my world, was paying his respect to my mom. I am very pleased to meet my host's mother. And I'm truly thankful to you for keeping him safe and also for taking him under your care. Mom was astonished at first from Drake's words. Then she smiled and hugged me with all motherly love she had for me and said, "Thank you very much, Drake. I'm so proud of my son. He's very helpful and he's such a good boy. I love him so much." And then, her hug became almost a bone-crushing hug. Later I had a talk with my fiancé. She'd managed to get me out of the crowd of kids. Seeing this, Mom has only winked at us, smiled and said to children, "Come on, my kids, let's give our lovebird some time alone." Most kids were not happy with it, but Mom, after using some motherly magic, somehow convinced them to let me in and Ari out. "Naya, I think I'll go with Amadi, Nyan. Have fun," added Shadow as she jumped off of my arm. As we were alone, Ari grabbed my left arm and took me to my Ekamaur room and then looked at me with Yandir smile on her face. Next she pushed me to our bed and hugged me. Her hands were touching both of my cheeks, her legs were around my waist, while her 9 fluffy tails have enveloped my arms, legs, one around my neck, working as hers and my pillow, and rest of them working as a blanket. She looked straight into my eyes, taking pleasure of every second of staring at me. "You have kept your promise. You came back to me so fast. You are such a good boy." Her voice, filled with love, was hypnotizing me. "My Verfus, mine, but darling, why haven't you told me about her?" I was afraid to tell her about Rainer, that is why. She knew about my first death, hell, Ari knew about everything. I didn't know how to tell you. That, and he was a little afraid of your reaction. Nice to finally meet you. Like I said before, I am Rainer. Fallen angel inside me introduced herself once more. But Ari wasn't surprised. "Mine Verfus belongs to me. If you hurt him again I will find a way to make you feel pain." Ari's voice was full of malice, but all of the evil emotions have disappeared when she looked at me once again. "I'll protect you, my Verfus." Her tone became from emotionless to lovely, nearly seducing. Her eyes were alike from hollow into full of passion. And at the end of her sentence she kissed me. "Worry not, I swear I won't harm your Issei," spoke Rainer with horrified voice, while Ari simply nodded at a response. While she has continued working kissing my lips, Drake took his turn to say something. "Ekam. Excuse me, partner, but since there is only me, you and your fiancé, I'd like to talk to both of you." Drake tried to talk to us, but he failed. Ari didn't stop kissing me. And that was a low blow for his pride. After all, dragons are not the ones to be ignored, right? Issei. And you. We have to talk. This time his tone was demanding attention. I could clearly see displeasure in Ari's eyes when she had to stop her kissing assault. "What's going on, Drake?" I asked, looking into my left glowing arm. Meanwhile, Ari has lied on my chest, also looking at my arm. "Well, Issei, Ari, I'll talk mostly to you, Ari. Are you introduced to the fact that dragons are drawing the attention of opposite sex?" Ari nodded and barely a moment later her grip on me has tightened and while her eyes had a possessive look. "Are you implying something, Drake?" Ari's voice had a pure Yandir tone. Both me and Drake gulped loudly, with the only difference that I was in more safe position. "Well, it means that what I'm trying to say is, well, many dragons are having harems. It's an actually common thing for the supernatural world from Earth, and that means, one day Ice might have." No. Drake couldn't end his statement because of Ari's outburst of anger. Her hug has started to be more like a death trap. She gave me a Yandir gaze and said, "My Ice won't have a harem. My Ice doesn't need a harem. I'm all he'd ever need. All those other whores will only hurt you, Ice, just like before. You are safe with me, my Verfus. I will gladly give you everything, all you have to do is just stay with me. So please stay. I love you. With all my heart." At first, her voice was almost animal-like, full of possession, but at the end, it transformed itself into a cry of a lonely girl, full of desperation, afraid of losing me. The most heartbreaking were her tears. They were simply too painful for me to watch. Her face was showing only pain and fear. I couldn't handle it was too painful for me to watch her like this. I took her cheeks into my hands. She was surprised, and from her beautiful eyes, tears were still flowing. She looked straight onto me with a glint of hope. Ari, I know that I've already said you this million of times, but let me say it again, I love you, Ari. Now and forever. I don't want any other girl than you. I don't need any harem or anyone besides you. I don't want to love anyone like I love you. You're the holder of my heart, my queen, no, my goddess. I said all that I had in my heart and kissed her. And she kissed me back, both normal and French way. Greg only smiled, seeing us like this. He spoke once again, but this time his voice was full of parental pride. So you have finally found your true heart in her. That's good. You'll be a good couple. You are perfect for him, Ari, after all that happened to him, you are everything I'd ever wish for him. Keep him safe. You too have my blessing. Ari only smiled in delight as she started her play once again. See, my love. We are meant to be together. And will be. Now and forever. I think that you can guess what happened next. Meanwhile, within Issei's solar rather mindscape, two beings Rainer and Drake were having a conversation about their host and his new life. Well, I have never thought that you'd allow Ice to be with a Yandir girl. Spoke Rainer first, in a little mocking tone. Say what you want, Fallen One, but she'll give him everything he deserves. Rainer wasn't surprised by this answer. After all, she was watching Issei for years. She was also glad for the fact that this world was better for her host ex-boyfriend. And what about other people here? Greg closed his eyes for a moment. His thoughts were clear, but he wanted to catch a moment for a little smile appearing on his face. Despite Issei's having 21 years on his neck, Ice is still a fragile child inside. Imadi will do a great job of being his mother. Kids in shadow, hell, even his new friends will also be very helpful. His life will finally be peaceful. Rainer was thinking about what Dragon just said. From what she knew, heard and understand, Ice was lonely. Tell me, Rainer took Dragon's full attention. Sometimes I do wonder what if Issei never wanted to have a harem. What if he was simply afraid of being alone? That could be true. I was watching his memories when he was just a kid, he only had Arena as his friend. After that, he was alone. He started to act as a pervert because of that old man telling those stupid stories about breast and those friends he had. And after time, through his perversion, he could mask his pain and loneliness. That was sad for Rainer. For someone so friendly and good to be alone, it was as if life itself was spitting on his face every time when he had to manage to achieve something. At least this time he has found peace and let it be for him forever. Living with a Yandir fiancé is not as bad as you may think. Especially if you love her back. The key is in understanding. Yes, understanding. A magical thing capable of ending of all conflicts. But to understand, you need to know the truth. And the truth may lead you to your own destruction. Why some dark thoughts? Well, let's just say that after another half of a year there was one incident that made me depressed. It all started very innocently. I took another mercenary job, the only thing that made it different from all others' job was the task. There are some anomalies in the Sagri Valley. Escort the group of scientists. Looks fine. I murmured mostly to myself. Exactly. Mind if I join you? Said Anger, who appeared right behind me. He has surprised me a little, but not to the point where I jump out of fear, like in all those comedies. Instead, I've turned around to see his face. He looked older than when we've met for the first time, obviously, and now he had some tattoos instead of hair. Sure, why not? Sounds like something easy. It was my reply to him. So we took the job and went on an adventure. If only any of you could see our surprise when we saw who we will have to escort. It was the rest of our old gang, Lester, Callum, and Birion. All of them had changed since I last saw them. Lester had his hair grow longer, stylized in a weird way, mostly because of hair in a mutton chop place. He had also a typical acolyte-like cloth, with green and brown colors. He was also holding a black mace. Halen looked more mature, mostly because of his noble-like look. His clothes were green and dark grayish blue. On his chest, there was placed an Eline insignia, a sign that he was a representative of the government of Eline. His hair was an exact copy of Aizen's hairstyle, yes, that guy from Bleach, with the only difference that Aizen's hair did not have a weird, unnatural green glow. He had a double-edged sword with him. And lastly, Birion, his blonde-brown hair was laying in a ponytail. He was also wearing typical clothes of a monk from Eline Temple. He had no weapon at all. We had a very happy hello. After all, we didn't see each other for a while. We all shared some stories, our lives, some laughs, and sadness. Birion and Callum were shocked when I told them that I had a fiancé, but not only I was in that situation, since Callum was also engaged. After our friendly talk, we've decided to go to our destination point, the Sagri Valley. So, what's wrong with Sagris? I asked while I was petting Shadow. If you are asking when the hell she appeared, then I'll answer. She was always with me on mission, she was just mostly sleeping. Space-time anomalies. We don't know exactly is happening there, but we are receiving some weird data. Space-time anomalies. I didn't know why, but I felt something bad coming. I just felt it in my gut. Something's wrong, Verfus? Asked Lester in half-joking, half-worried tone. His eyes were circling around, watching the environment around him. I don't know, Lester, I have a bad feeling about this mission. He only laughed and delicately punched my right arm. Worry not, it will probably be another boring mission. He was very assured of his words, but I couldn't share his positive mood. You're right, Ice, something is wrong. I can feel something familiar, yet I can't say what it is. Just be careful out there, partner. Even my two inner spirits felt in a similar way, and that was definitely not a good sign. Then, to make it worse, Shadow woke up from her sleep and I could easily tell that she was nervous. Ice Nyan, something is coming, please be careful Nyan. But before I could ask her why, anger shooted to us in panic. Look out. I've looked to my right and I saw the incoming attack in form of a fire thrown out of some beast. But I wasn't wasting time as I've raised my hand and concentrated my power to disable the flames coming at me. Surprisingly, it worked out. All the flames have died out when the attack touched my hand. But it was not the end. 2 seconds later I could finally see my opponent. It was big, oversized dog, with 3 heads and fire burning in each of its head. But that is impossible. I thought in a panic because I knew what kind of monster that was. The Cerberus, it's a fucking Cerberus. Space-time anomalies to our world. Partner. Get a hold of yourself. Drake woke me up from my shock. Thanks to him, my mind had turned to battle mode on. As I looked into my friends' faces, I could easily see shock, but not from fear, but rather from not understanding what we were facing. What in the hell is this? Anger has broken the dead silence between us. My friends looked into one another, looking for some answers. And only I had possessed the knowledge how to defeat that monster. Everyone. Reap all of its 3 heads, now. 1 second later, all of us were in a battle stances. Within next moment, me, Anger and Lester took out our weapons. In my case, I've created a sword made of fire, while Birion created magical circles to allow us to jump high enough to aim for the beast's head. 3 deadly strikes later, Cerberus was nothing more than a dead meat bag. First head was smashed in an unnatural way, Lester's work, the second one was cut off, Anger's work, and the last one was cut in half. But none of us had the time to celebrate because all of us felt another strange signature. The one that I didn't felt for years. A devil one. A water-like one. Issei, if I'm not mistaken, this energy it feels like Citri. When I've turned around, I saw a Gorgon-like monster made out purely of water. I've got this. Before I could react, I've heard Callum words while he has summoned his own flames. The Gorgon-like creature attacked and swallowed him whole. But to my own relief, after a few seconds, the water creature started to bulge like every boiling water and vaporized into hot steam. Meanwhile, Callum was standing in the middle of the fog as if nothing happened. But that was not the end of our battle. Another 3 presences have entered the battlefield, this time, draconic ones. This aura it's like 3 Midgardsormers. But, not as powerful as the original one. Name Midgardsormer was ringing in my head. I could only tell that I knew this name from somewhere, but right now I had better things to do. Those 3. Also, serpent-like dragons were on a high-class devil power level. And I had to work fast since our mission required something completely different than fighting. Why won't you try to use some of your new power? Asked Rainer in sister-ish tone. That actually might be a great idea. My wings appeared behind me and I've started to fly towards dragons. When I was 50 meters behind them I saw that they are partially wounded, some of their scales were burned. Don't you think that we have seen already those dragons? Even Rainer thought that something was odd. But I decided to not give a damn about that. Come to me, Ascalon. On my command, my new Ascalon appeared in my right hand. With summoned sword and unlocked power, the fire has started to dance around me and my blade. My powers were overwhelming and the heat was still increasing. I was afraid that it might hurt someone. Boy, Shadow, you're good. Nye, what a comfy sigh, warm purr. Shadow said in half-awake tone, then she went back to sleep while purring. It was a relief to me that my powers were not harmful to my friends. I've closed the distance between me and 3 dragons. They have already noticed me, but it didn't help them. I've gathered enough energy for my special attack. I swung my blade and unleashed my energy with one single scream. Meteor. An enormous wave of powerful and destructive fire went towards my enemies. They did not have any chance to survive. 3 dragon clones were vaporized from the existence. Dragons are not, the power and heat from my meteor were too much for them. After destroying my enemies, there was a powerful wind created as an impact of my attack. I was shocked. I simply couldn't comprehend how powerful I was. Why are you so surprised? This is all result of your training. And remember, every dragon, even the low-class one, is powerful. Just don't get your brain melted by this sudden boost in power. Oh, don't worry, Welsh dragon. This one Ichan will make sure of that. After all, we don't want Ice to become a mindless bulk, right? Both Drake and Rainer added their comments. And you can guess in what kind of voice Rainer was speaking. When I returned to my friends, all of them had a lot of questions to me. What in the hell was that? Since when you are so goddamn strong? First was Lester, whose mouth was speaking words with a light speed. With what Amadi was feeding you? Ha 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 ha. Who would knew that shy Verfis has so much energy? Well, that was surprising. Even Birion and Anger were surprised, but to my own relief, none of them had any negative comments about it. Only Callum seemed to be completely not care about it, but it was normal for him. But then again, something was wrong. I felt as if time and space itself were wrong. I couldn't explain that. Even Shadow was now on the fully alert state. Ice 9, be careful, everything is so wrong here. She was shivering from fear. And so was I. And then, the worst has happened. The space-time anomaly began to fluctuate world around us. I had problems to understand what was happening around me. The grounds and plants seemed to glow with a weird light, while air was replaced by a magnificent aurora, with stars shining inside. I could also hear my comrades shooting and yelling something at each other, but their voices were distorted, like if they were saying words in a double-like echo. Even my moves seemed to be how to explain that properly, as if I was underwater. Quick. Device, collect the data. I've heard my friend scream, but it was all too blurted to me. Ice. You need to concentrate. Focus on what you can see and feel. Ice, you might want to see it. At first, I didn't know what was she talking about, but then I've heard something that terrified me. Balance breaker. Hearing this, I couldn't help but concentrate on what I was witnessing. I didn't want to believe it. It was mine, or rather my and my ex-friend's battle with Loki. I've never wanted to see things like this again, yet fate was once again mocking me. It was once again this battle. I saw me and Volley charging at Loki. I saw Kuroka capturing Fenrir. And then two enormous wolves, Fenrir's kids, appearing on the battlefield and fighting with Tannen. No, 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 please, please, I don't want to see it again. I don't want to see this anymore. I was yelling with full power of my lungs, but no one was listening to me. I've closed my eyes, but I could still hear and because of that remember all that had happened. Tannen burning Midgardsormr's clones, Zenobia and Kiba attacking Fenrir's kids. I could hear everything. It was as if I was in my personal hell. The Keno. Someone's scream woke me up from my delusional state. It was Riaz, screaming at a Keno who was going to be bite by Fenrir. I have witnessed my past self trying to take the blow for a Keno. That made me so angry, so furious. My fist tightened to the point where blood was leaking from them. Don't save her, I started quietly, but within seconds my voice became a dragon roar. Do not save that bitch. That whore deserve fate worse than death. You hear me, let this whore die. Partner, stop. Drake tried to take my attention. You cannot do anything right now, let it happen. Knowing how powerless I was, I just stood there and watched things happening, or at least this is what I wanted to do. Issei, I've heard Rainer's voice in my head. You know it cannot be a coincidence. I think it is time for you to talk to your past self as a Shichigami-sana's messenger. It was beyond me, it couldn't be, right? I could not be a godlike spirit from another world, could I? No, this is just a stupid joke. A joke. Right. Right, Drake, tell me that I'm right. Sorry partner, I'm as confused as you. Think about it, Ice. We are here, in another world, right in the center of a space-time annually. There is no room for a mistake. Shichigami was always you. Desperation. It was all that I had in my heart. A desperate task to prove her wrong. Even if all of it made sense. I just had to prove her wrong, just for my own sanity. I understand you, Ice, you don't want to participate in affairs of DXD world, but it had to be done. Her words made sense. As much as I hated it, as much as I wanted to change the past, the consequences would be too dramatic if I'd not listened to her. A deus ex machina. A big bowl of wibbly-wobbly time-why-me stuff. A fucking causal loop. Geez, I hate the time already. If past cannot be changed, then I might as well get along with it, right? Well, then let it be. So, partner, what is your decision? Drake asked in worried, yet also accepting tone. Remember, whatever happens, we are here with you. My eyes caught a scene where Akeno was talking to her wounded father, and I, once again, saw myself, and I knew what I was going to do. Rainer, can you take care of my body? I'll try to concentrate my own energy to send it to my past self. What are you trying to do? Trying to save my idiotic past self. I said with a half grin. I started to meditate, but before I started to do my task, I said one thing to my draconic partner. Drake, cover your ears unless you want to have nightmares again. He only humphed in annoyance, knowing what I was trying to do. Ready whenever you are. Then, I've sent my consciousness into DXD world. I could feel. Not the same feeling as if I was in my own body, but I could feel my past self with growing feeling of determination and at the same time desperation. Even without created link with my past self, it was pretty obvious to me. Waiting. For exactly one moment in history. I couldn't just go there to his mind just like that. I had to wait until my past self will activate this stupid ability called Polingual. God, how embarrassing it was. The worst part for me, I had to use exactly the same ability at the same moment as him to contact him. Akeno's op-I, please do tell me, does Akeno truly hates Barakiel-sama? I've heard him using this shameless ability. And that was the same time when I had to use mine. Bilingual, I wasn't simply using this skill. I also had to adjust myself to my past self technique. Our combined bilinguals has resonated. I could easily read his mind, he was utterly confused. Well, fuck that, the show must go on. We are not Himejima Akeno's breasts, we are the sacred spirit of breasts. Who the hell are you? He asked in a state of complete shock while he was pointing his finger at that full in whore bosom. Calm down. I'm using girls' boobs as a medium to talk to you. Geez, talking shit like this was really embarrassing. And the fact that I knew what I had to tell my past self was not helping at all. What's more, who are you? I am the sacred spirit, serving the Chichigami-sama, the god that rules all breasts. I was summoned by your great desire of breasts. I couldn't choose what was funnier, to watch his utterly confused face or the reaction of his comrades after hearing his revelation. All of them has tried to heal my past self and past drag, while Barakiel went mad at me. As much as it was funny to watch this stupid show, I still had work to do. Listen closely, op-I dragon. I said to me in the past, catching his attention fully. Listen to the true feelings of this priestess and call for the power of Chichigami-sama. And he did as I said. Chichigami-sama is truly charitable and protective for those who desire for breasts. I was basically saying all the nonsense I've remembered from the time when I was in his place. And to make it worse, my past self has actually responded. Okay, get a grip, get a grip. Good, listen to this girl's feelings. Then, with the power of both combined bilinguals, I was forced to see Akeno's memories once again. I saw her past, her mother, father, and her childhood. I saw how her mother was killed and how she has thrown away her father from her life. Akeno, my thoughts went to the person I once called Akeno. In the end, you deserve it. You are throwing away everyone who has ever loved you. Once you've called yourself a hybrid, an abomination, and you were goddamn right. You are nothing more but a whorish monster who loves to bring pain to others. And yet, you dared to cry over your own life while you enjoying the suffering of others. You deserve only the pain. You wanted to feel love, but you'll never have it. And that is because you don't understand the very concept of love. You do only understand lust through bestial pleasure. I have screamed in silence, only within my soul, where no one beside me and my spirit could listen. A silent scream to nobody. Just to simply get it out of my mind. Akeno's memories have finally ended. It was the time to start my proper task. To make sure that I from the past will stay alive. So, after clearing my mind, I've spoken to me once again. Op-I dragon. Can you hear me, op-I dragon? Once again, I had caught my attention. You have saved feelings of this girl and her breasts. Now, I shall give you the divine protection of Chichigami-sama to you. Through space and time, I've sent my energy, synchronizing with the boosted gear from the past, making my past self exploding with mine, Rainer, and Drag aura, surpassing the power of past me and volleys. Listen closely, op-I dragon. The power given by Chichigami-sama, you can use it only once. With those words, I went into silence. I have cancelled my connection to my past self. When I came back to my body, my limbs were numb. I had literally no energy to do anything. I have fallen to my knees while tears were coming to my eyes. My only hope that I've finally had run away from my past life, that I'll never have to see them again. After all this time, why it keeps happening to me. Urfus. Someone woke me up for a moment from my depression. It was the voice of my friends. But I didn't answer. I just didn't want to. And then, I've noticed something before me. It was a little boy, no older than 10 years old. He was lying unconscious on the grass. But to make it even weirder, his aura was telling me something very terrifying. He was a devil. Loki was sitting, locked inside his prison cell, cursing everyone that made him lost. Curse you, Odin. For you, to do something as shameful as helping and working with other factions. And you, Sekirute, curse you. I'll make sure you'll fall, and I'll be the one to watch you fall into despair. I promise. No, it is my oath as Loki, an Asgardian god. While he was busy preparing his evil plans, he has noticed weird disruptions in a prison wall. As he inspected it closer, he has noticed that it was a space-time anomaly. Loki has grinned widely, seeing this rare phenomenon appearing right in front of his very own eyes. Maybe I won't have to wait so long. He asked himself while he has concentrated his divine powers. Soon, after Loki's influence, the anomaly has started to grow in size, to the point where it was all inside Loki's prison cell. Then it started to glow. If there was any witness to watch, then all he would see would be Loki, disappearing inside a weird glow. Soon was the last thing Loki said before leaving the DXD world behind. The monks in the oldest Centaurian temple were standing in a circle. They stood like that for God knows how long. But they were debating. Issei versus Hyoudou. He has yet to wake up. The destination of all dragons. He will not be able to run away from it. His dragon nature will soon become his downfall. The weapon will always be nothing more than a weapon. The last Akasi has come to us. The ancient ones will return to her grace. The prophecy will finally find fulfillment. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.